All right.
Hello,
Ready?
Renee, by the way.
Oh, you're supposed to circle. Not the
All
whole
right.
thing.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Good job.
Boom, with an amen in there too.
Nice.
All right.
Amen.
All right. Hey, if anybody says it, I swear to God, we'll boot you out of here. Don't you say it.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get
Huh?
it.
A woman.
Amen. Oh, who said it?
I did.
Oh,
Oh, I can't kick Wayne out. Jesus.
You thought it was going to be me. You thought it was going to be me.
I did think it was going to be you. I was looking right at you when I said it. All right. All right. So last week I forgot to get in here and give Wayne a shout out. Obviously, Fox has fired up Flags and Furniture. He's our first real sponsor. He donated the flag behind me. It's a 5-foot flag. For those of you that haven't seen it, we the people sit, learn, discuss the everyday Constitution. So, Wayne, can you go ahead? I'm just, so I'm not trying to do it while I'm talking. Just go ahead and put your link for your Facebook page in the chat.
All right.
If you could. And listen, take a look at his stuff, man. If you guys need if you need a flag or even some of the furniture he's doing is incredible. So, and he's a member of this group and he donated to us. So if you guys could at least take a look at him before you move on and look anywhere else, I would appreciate it. Once you get to his stuff though, you're not going anywhere else. It's incredible work. All right. All right. So we ended last week on Article 2. Article 2, Section 4. But we had to kind of hurry through Section 4 because we were at the end. It's the shortest section of all of them, right? It's only a couple sentences long compared to the rest. So I felt like we could just hurry our way through it, but a bunch of you said that we should probably spend a little more time on it. And given what's happening now in Congress, moving to the Senate now with the impeachment, we should probably all understand it a little bit better. So that's all we're going to talk about tonight. We're just going to work on impeachment. I don't like to really get off topic, but sometimes I think we need to, or get off the schedule, I guess. But I think sometimes we need to, and this is probably one of those times. So before we get going on that, I would like to apologize last week. I felt it while it was going on. And then after watching the video, man, I was not as well prepared as I could have been on that one. And I try to be very well prepared for you guys, but just life being life. And what it was is I was rushed at the end there and trying to get all my notes done. And I didn't have time to be researching all the case law that I should be doing. And so my apologies for that if it sucked. We'll work on that. I'll feel bad for like a month. So the next couple are going to be great.
I almost didn't come to tonight's meeting.
Because of that?
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. Well, you would have showed up for the after. If you know who you are.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
you're the guy at the wedding that just shows up at the reception. I don't think you've ever seen one of your friends get married, have you?
In pictures.
All right. All right. So where are we here? So
okay.
Article 2, Section, what's that?
Hey,
I just said, okay.
pledge.
Who's the FBI?
It's probably Holly Swank.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Holly stole her brother's idea. there.
Okay. All right.
So,
Just
all
say.
right. Mike, you missed it. We already did the pledge.
Oh, sorry. Got jumped
That's
in
okay.
late.
That's all right. Just cover your heart, say a Hail Mary, and we'll continue. All right. So we'll go to Section 2, Article 4, read it one more time, and then we'll get into it. Is the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. So as we were talking about this last week, the question, which is always the question, when you're talking about impeachment generally, is the high crimes and misdemeanors, right? That's the confusing part. Everybody knows what treason is. Everybody knows what bribery is. High crimes and misdemeanors, like somebody brought up. So if the president gets caught with a joint in the Oval Office, can he be impeached? It's a misdemeanor. And there was a lot of talk about that as they did not go into this lightly with this wording. Sorry, I'm gonna mute my phone there. So let's get into the history a little bit on impeachment. As I'm going through, if you've got something to say, just say it. Just go ahead and interrupt me. Either hand up or just start talking. Renee, hopefully we'll see you.
maybe you can answer for me. What are considered the civil officers? Is that just the cabinet members?
It is. It's everybody appointed by the president in the cabinet. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, but people that aren't elected. But normally we don't get to that point, and we'll talk about it, but normally we don't get to that point, right? Because when something like that's coming on, no administration wants one of their cabinet members to be impeached. Nobody wants
Right.
even Congress member to be impeached. Impeachment's usually reserved for presidents and judges. Though cabinet members and judges can be impeached, but they usually step down long before cabinet members and congressmen can be impeached, but they usually step down long before this happens, right? You see all the scandals that pop with the with Congress people, and they just resign. They get out of there before they get impeached. Same with the cabinet, right? The president doesn't want his cabinet getting impeached. So if something big is coming down the pike like that, unless you're Donald Trump and just fire everybody at some point in your presidency, they're just letting members of their cabinet go before it ever gets there. But yeah, that's exactly what that is. So since this thing has started, we've had 3 presidents, 1 senator, 1 cabinet officer, and 15 judges that have been impeached. Of those, I think only 8 judges have been removed and never a president. Right? We've had a couple presidents impeached, but nobody's been removed. Now it's important to remember when you're talking about impeachment, we're talking about charges that are filed, right? It's just like the police coming and charging you with something. You're not guilty of anything until you go to court and you've had your day. So the House has impeached. They've brought charges against the president. And it looks like as of today, neither of those impeachments that happen from the House are going to be convictions. It looks like Senate today sent a pretty strong message saying that they only had 5 senators on board. They need, I think, 17 in order to get the impeachment. I know, well, we won't talk about who was on board, just that there was 5 of the 17. So it looks like it's probably DOA, man. It's dead in the water. Once it gets there, I think they're just going to be done with it. So now it's also important that impeachments aren't for doing a bad job, right? That's what elections are for. It's not what impeachments are for. There has to be a good reason to impeach a president. I would, without being, obviously we're not getting political here, but we're talking about something that's happening now. So, I mean, I think we have to talk about obviously Donald Trump when we're talking about this because he's our latest impeachment. And the first one was a sham. I mean, there was nothing there. There was no high crime misdemeanor. There was no treason. There was no bribery. And it got to the Senate and was immediately squashed as it should have been. But with that one, at least they went through the motions, right? They still went through their investigation. They went through their committees. It got voted on. And then it went over to the Senate. But with this one, I mean, they didn't do anything. They just voted on it. There was no investigation. There was no, and people say, well, it was on TV. What more do you need? Well, okay, what was on TV were a bunch of traitors that were storming the Capitol building, right? There was no evidence on TV. If you want to take what was on TV, you actually have a president of the United States that day saying we are going to patriotically and peacefully march down there and let our voices be heard. So to say that, well, you saw it on TV, that's all the evidence you need. Man, if that's what we're basing it on is what happened on TV, you don't have enough to even bring the impeachment. So now, had they started interviewing witnesses, and I think there's valid questions there. There's valid questions as to whether or not the president had something to do with the insurrection at the Capitol. But without the investigation, without witnesses being brought forward, without corroborating evidence, you can't just say that the president is guilty of these things, bring your impeachment and send it over there and think that you're going to get a conviction. It just doesn't work that way. So there's 4 schools of thought right now on how impeachment should work. All right, the first one's congressional interpretation. Gerald Ford, and I don't remember the time, but obviously it was when he was back in Senate, had made the comment that basically impeachment is the level that rises to impeachment is whatever Congress says it is whatever the House, says it is. And that's dangerous. Luckily, the courts have not agreed with that. Now they do get to decide what is impeachable based upon that moment in history, right? Which is how we ended up here with the insurrection at the Capitol. And like I said, I'm not opposed to them bringing it up. It was a big deal. And if he did have something to do with it, he should certainly be held to task. But we never got that far. This view here with Congress just being able to get to say, just being able to decide whatever they think is impeachable is kind of crazy. Luckily, none of the courts have, and none of the scholars have embraced that. And I mean, you guys can see the problem there, right? Anytime Congress had a problem with you and decided that you, as the president, were in the wrong, were not going the way they wanted to go, or whatever, they could just impeach you. So it really takes away from the three separate branches of government, because the president is always going to be kissing Congress's. Who's here?
Well, isn't that exactly what just happened?
Well, it is, but you see where it went.
Donald Trump.
The Senate is realizing that it is unconstitutional, which is why you're only getting 5 senators, and one of them's Mitt Romney. You knew he was coming. You know, and I question those 5 senators, because when we're into a case like this, and you got 5 senators that clearly this has been handled outside of the bounds of the Constitution, that are going to vote to convict him based on what evidence. I question their motives at that point, right? As to why they're doing it. Are they doing it for justice, or are they doing it for longevity? And I don't know, only they know that. Maybe they really truly believe that he's guilty of something, but again, what evidence did you provide? And I guess that would show up in the trial, but it doesn't look like that's ever going to get there.
So I'm reading this again. It says the president, vice president, and all the civil officers. Which one is he now?
Well, at the time the impeachment, the time that the charges came forward, he was the president, right? The question is going to be, and I was back and forth on it until the more I read about it for this, really. And I tell you guys, man, I learn just as much as you guys learn every week. And the more I read on it, I've changed my mind. I don't think that there's any way that this is constitutional for them to go after the president of the United States once he's been removed from office. I mean, that is the main goal here, is to remove that officer from office, that politician, that judge, whoever. And if he's not in office anymore, I would agree. But at the time that these articles of impeachment, at the time that the House brought forth those articles of impeachment, he was the president. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the impeachment. I mean, everything withstanding that I said, I don't have a problem with the timing of it, because he was there. The problem is now, right? I mean, what are you looking to do? And clearly they're just looking to make sure he can't run again.
Yeah, didn't it say in Article 1 somewhere? I couldn't tell you exactly where, but I swear I read somewhere where it said it couldn't be used as punitive or retribution. That impeachment wasn't to be used as punitive or punishment.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know, Bill. Thanks for putting me on the spot. Actually, I'll let you find it, and then I'll let you get back to me.
I will.
Easier
Yeah,
for you to
I'll
read
look
it.
for it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that's always the case, right? What's happened now, recently, in this administration, at least, is they've politically weaponized impeachment.
Yeah.
Impeachment is not what impeachment used to be. I mean, impeachment was a big deal, right? Nixon, you think back to the presidents that have been impeached. You got Nixon, you got Clinton, who lied under oath. I mean, that's a big deal. If you can't trust President of the United States, I mean, that's fair. Now, neither one were convicted. Nixon left, and Clinton wasn't convicted. But
It
that's
was in
exactly-
section 3, clause 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, clause 7,
Yep.
6 and 7.
What is it? Can you read it real quick? How long are those clauses?
I can read it. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor,
All right,
trust.
hold
or-
on real quick. That's what they're hanging their hat on right there, right? It's not just the removal of office. They're hanging their hat on the fact that they're going to try to stop him from ever holding office again, because whatever they say and whatever they claim they feel about him, they're scared of him, right? They don't want Donald Trump running again in 2024. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, then after that, it says they can't enjoy any office of honor, trust, profit under the United States, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law.
Correct. So
Can you tell
so
me
what
where
the-
you were reading?
That was Article 1, Section 3, Clause
It's the last clause.
7,
Clause
clause
7.
7. Yeah.
I'll put it,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So the last part of that, what Bill read there, and what that's saying is, no president can be arrested really, or tried for crimes through the criminal justice system while he is president. However, once you are impeached, that's all erased. Once you're impeached, you're removed from office.
Once you're found
You're
guilty,
not, right.
you can-
Yeah,
Well,
once you're
we're
impeached and
found guilty.
convicted.
Right, impeached and convicted, all that goes away. All those protections go away. So once you're removed from office, they can come after you in the court of law if you have violated a criminal.
Well, and
criminal statute.
yeah, so here's my question on that, right? So Donald Trump was impeached in the House,
Mhm.
and now we're into the trial phase in the Senate. Well, he's also not the president anymore, so he's now subject to the laws and everything that all civilians are. So why do we have to go through a conviction through the Senate when he's
Right.
a private citizen? And
Well,
a crime-
again, I think they're hanging their hat on him never holding office again. That's what they're after. And Nancy Pelosi in an interview actually said that. She
Okay.
actually came out with
Yes,
those
she did.
words and said that their purpose for this is so that he could never hold office again. So-
here's another
Right.
question. Well,
Are
let me
they
see
trying?
that. If
But
he
you're trying to use the precedent for the William Belknap, who was impeached after he was a cabinet official. He was impeached after he resigned,
Mhm.
but he wasn't convicted with the Senate either.
right,
He had a
but-
majority, but not enough.
We don't even have a chief justice presiding over
Well,
the
we'll get
Senate.
it, and we'll
right
get
now.
into that. We'll get into that. The whole thing is a sham.
But yeah, but here's my segue. Like if they end up trying him in the Senate and he's acquitted, he's found not guilty, they don't have the votes. Is he now double jeopardy protected? He can't be tried as a civilian for anything that happened that they brought towards
Good
him?
point.
Well,
if
No,
they were
double
now you got to
jeopardy.
remember, you're talking about two different things here. All right. So I don't know about the double jeopardy there. Is it really double jeopardy? Because he's not facing jail time. All he's facing is removal of office. So there's not really double jeopardy there. It's not
well,
like,
if he's only
it's-
facing removal of office, he's already removed.
right. But I'm saying strictly from the,
Just disqualification, they're trying to.
and disqualification, but that's not criminal,
Okay.
right? So it's
No.
not really double jeopardy, but
Well, that
God,
makes sense.
I had
Because
a great idea. And it's gone.
yeah, well, that makes sense too. Because
Here's why- and
Keep looking up, you'll find it.
hey, Brad, and as far as, is he going to be a civilian tried in the Senate? Think about if you were in the military and you commit a crime and then you get out, but they bring charges against you. Do you still go through the military court?
there's no double jeopardy protection in the military. You can get
Well, it's
hammered.
not double jeopardy. But if you left the military after you committed the crime, would you be tried in the military court?
I don't think if it was a crime related to the military, probably. But I don't know if I would if I had committed a crime while I was that's confusing. I'm confusing myself.
Well, he means, okay, so if you
committed like a murder and you covered it up, and then years later after you retired or you left the military and they find out it was you,
I don't think
Does-
they can recall you.
I don't-
Now,
I
if
don't
you're
think
still
the
on
military
inactive
will.
reserve,
Right,
I think if you're on inactive reserve, they can bring you back for a court martial. But I think once you've done your time, you're probably done.
I think,
right?
yeah.
But you're still going to be,
then it just
Oh,
goes.
you're still,
well-
every military base is
Federal land.
in some county somewhere. You're still going to be tried.
Right, but what if
Now,
the
what I was gonna
charges?
say-
What if the charges are brought,
Oh my God.
just like impeachment
What
is
if-
brought while you're still in, but then you retire the next week?
I bet they don't let you
So-
out.
They can. They'll do a discharge in lieu of court martial sometimes. But it's a separate order.
So what I was going to say though, under your point, Brad, before I forget it again, is remember what we're talking about now, right? That right now, there's been no investigation. There's been nothing. All right. There's been no evidence brought forward to warrant the charges that are levied against Donald Trump. Now, if he were to get out, that standard is going to be even higher in the civilian world, right? I mean, he has constitutional protections here. There is no judge in the world based on, if they were to charge him with insurrection, no judge in the world hears this case without any evidence. No judge in the world. So
Yes, I
don't
do.
think, what's that?
Go ahead and finish.
Well, no, what were you going to say?
Chris has his hand raised.
Oh, Chris. Where's Chris?
Yeah, right here.
Blank.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
Quick question. Well, it's actually a two-part question. First one is, so if he's been impeached, but they go in, now he's a private citizen and they go through the proceedings, would the government all of a sudden, would they be subject to a lawsuit from Trump? Because they're now trying him as a president, but he's no longer a president. He's a private citizen. And then the other question would be, why doesn't the Supreme Court look at this case and say whether or not make the judgment if it's constitutional to do this or not? I mean, that's part of their job, right?
So let me hit the second one first. And that's actually the very last thing I was going to talk about, was that the Supreme Court will not get involved here. All right. They've decided that they should not review impeachments. And the reasoning they have behind that is the political question doctrine, right? They are a separate branch of government. And right now, the way the Constitution's written, who has sole authority over the convictions?
The Senate.
Senate has sole authority, right? So the Supreme Court, and what they're saying, whether it's right or wrong, now there's been some dissents on it that have said, look, if things are really out of control and it looks like things are being abused, we could get involved. But for the most part, they're not going to get involved because now you're mixing two branches of government. Judicial does not believe they have the right to go in there by the Constitution where it says that the Senate has sole responsibility over the conviction and overturn that. So unless there is gross misconduct there or, which, I mean, that could be argued, right?
That's kind of contradicting though, because the Supreme Court, they're the ones who are responsible for stating or judging whether something is constitutional or not. That's the question with this. A lot of people have is this constitutional?
Well, but apparently the Senate does not believe it is. So it's going to stop in the Senate. I mean, the system's going to work like it should work. If the Senate says, look, and most of the Republicans are saying, look, we don't believe this is constitutional. We're not getting behind it. We're not voting for it. So I think it's working like it's supposed to work. I mean, it should have never got out of the House, but it did. But the Senate is going to stop it.
It's such a bad precedent though. I mean, because that just means any president, whoever controls the House can impeach every sitting president. And are we going to go through this every 4 years?
Well, it's like kangaroo court.
It is. Yeah. It is. But I guess you got to hope that, the system works and the Senate realizes what's going on and they just drop the whole thing. Or it's a weird deal, man. It is, right? Would have you ever thought the House was going to impeach based on just because they hate them, just to get back at them? Yeah. I mean, that's what it appears.
Feelings.
What's that?
And to prevent him from coming back.
Right.
Because they don't want to have to rig an election again.
Listen, man, this is a weird time. Let me move on. So we got the 4 schools of thought here. We got congressional interpretation, which nobody believes is the way it should be. Nobody believes that the House should be allowed to dictate the president's behavior, right? If he violates his oath, if he commits a crime, then we have remedies for that. But just because you don't like them, nobody thinks that should go. Now, another school of thought is that it is an indictable crime. All right. If you read, and we haven't got to Article 3 yet, but if you read through the Constitution, clearly the founders' thoughts on impeachment were centered around criminal aspects. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 3, the trial of all crimes except in cases of impeachment shall be by jury. So if they didn't feel that impeachment should have been the result of a criminal action, why would they include that in that sentence? The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1, which we did read, we went over. The president can grant pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. I mean, again, they're likening this whole thing to criminal elements.
Criminal misbehavior, yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't think any way that you can read this, and if you read into the history and you read into the other articles, that there's any way at all that back then they were saying, look, if you don't like the president, you can impeach him and get him thrown out of here. Goes completely flies in the face of what this country is founded on. Congress does not have the right to overturn a legitimate election, the will of the people, just because they don't like the guy, because they don't agree with what he's doing.
Yeah, so that kind of gets it. You were mentioning this before, but you said that the Senate doesn't believe this is constitutional, so it's not going to go anywhere. And my question to you is that true? Do they not think it's constitutional, or do they not think he's guilty of a crime that would fit that description that you just mentioned?
Well, I'm only going based on what a couple of them have said, that they believe that this is unconstitutional, that the way it was handled.
You know, I heard Ted Cruz today talking on Hugh Hewitt, and he basically was asked the same question. And he said, honestly, the end result is all that matters at this point, as far as he's concerned. And if it's a group of senators that says they think it's unconstitutional, and there's another group of senators that says you're never going to get the 67 votes you need, and we're wasting our time, he says, let's just get to the end and get the vote done.
Right.
And he doesn't really care how we get there or how he gets there. There's not going to be enough votes to make it stick, whether it's constitutional or not. He doesn't care what their reasoning is. Let's just vote on it.
But you have to, if there was any merits to this at all, you wouldn't only have 5 Republicans coming forward, right? You wouldn't. And nobody is scared of Donald Trump right now.
If there was any merit to in criminal court, if he honestly, if there was honestly evidence that he incited a insurrection, wouldn't he be brought up on charges in criminal court?
Well, you'd think, well, yeah, absolutely he would. But you think he would be under arrest right now if there was.
And perfectly, right, the way you described it earlier is in a criminal court, they'd never convict because there is not evidence of that.
Not only convict, you would get to the preliminary hearing on that, and a judge would dismiss this.
Right. Right.
It would not even go forward. It wouldn't go past a prelim.
Honestly, if there were anything that he had said that was inflammatory, we would hear nothing but it on a loop continuously through the media, one after another, after another. We would be drowning in it, and we're not.
Yeah.
What we're hearing is everybody else saying how bad it was and that he said something that incited, but we're not hearing anything that's actually.
Let me go here, and I was going to write this down, but there was a lot of it, so I decided not to do this.
Jimmy, I've been here the whole time. I just turned on my camera right now. But I wanted to ask just what people's thoughts were about some of the folks who were there and said they were there because he told them to go there or were following his lead. And that is not a loaded question. I just wonder what folks' thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I can answer that pretty easily. And that's, you look at things like the congressional baseball shooting, the Bernie Sanders supporter, and Bernie's out there talking about how the Republicans are out there killing old people, and that was part of his motivation to do it. If that's not a problem, if nobody's looking at Bernie Sanders in a situation like that, nobody will.
In fairness, I mean, each incident needs to be weighed on its own, right?
Right,
but what you're saying, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. But no, I mean, just because somebody comes forward and says they were there because he told them to be there, I mean, first off, and there's no excuses here, but we need to look at this from a legal standpoint, right? So who were these people? What was their motivation? We don't know because the House never had a hearing on it. They never launched an investigation into it. They didn't bring witnesses forward, right? We have people on social media saying this, but we don't have anybody who went and testified at the House. I mean, none of it is evidence.
It's what was the case you cited a while back about insurrection, the burning of the cross? I can't remember.
Brandenburg v. Ohio.
Brandenburg v. Ohio. I mean, that's what it is. So this is one of those situations where Donald Trump, the love that people have for Donald Trump, raises the emotional temperature. And
sure. And I don't think anybody's going to, I mean, when people talk about it being a cult, I mean, there is a true cult there, right?
Yeah.
There's a cult of personality for sure, that these people have subscribed to whatever Donald Trump says and whatever they think Donald Trump says, right? I mean, these conspiracy theories, man, when I'm watching this stuff and as we're coming into the inauguration, and I'm watching people saying, oh, did you hear what Donald Trump said? You know, he says that the military is going to arrest everybody. And I'm like, what? So I'll go back and I'll look, I'm like, man, Donald Trump never said the military is going to arrest everybody, but that's what they heard. They heard that's what Donald Trump said. So they shared it in their groups, and their groups all climbed on board with it, and they shared it in their groups. And that's how we ended up where we were. What you think Donald Trump meant and what Donald Trump said are two different things.
It goes every single way. People act irrationally when they're emotional. And
Yep.
one of those
Yes.
politics. So
Absolutely.
Donald Trump absolutely did not go out there. And if he had said, we are storming this Capitol, we are taking prisoners, we are taking name, fry him. That's not what he said.
Without a doubt. All right, let me go over real quick here, and then we can move on. How Congress sets the rules for the impeachment. Now, I believe these are still the current rules. All right, I don't know. It's possible that 2 days before they went and brought forth the articles of impeachment, that they changed the rules. I don't know, but typically and historically, here's the rules. So I'm just going to read them because it was a lot to write, and I think this spells it out pretty good. Both the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate have the right to make their own rules governing the procedure and to change those rules. Under current rules, the actual impeachment inquiry begins in the Judiciary Committee of the House of Representatives. That committee holds hearings, takes evidence, and hears testimony of witnesses concerning matters relevant to the inquiry. Typically, as occurred in the case of President Nixon, there will also be a minority counsel who serves the interest of the party not controlling Congress. Witnesses are interrogated by the committee counsel, the minority counsel, and each of the members of the House Judiciary Committee. The committee formulates articles of impeachment which could contain multiple counts. The committee votes on the articles of impeachment, and the results of that vote are reported to the House as a whole. The matter is then referred to the whole House, which debates the matter and votes on the articles of impeachment, which may or may not be changed. If the articles of impeachment are approved, the matter is sent to the Senate for trial. None of that happened.
I was just gonna say, did any of that happen?
None of that happened except for the whole House voting on the articles of impeachment.
Right.
That is all that happened.
That's
So-
what confuses me, is how is that possible? Like, how can they just do that? Ignore all of the rules and just do what they want? That's
Well,
what I
they-
don't understand.
Didn't it
All they
say
have to
that
do
the
is
rules
modify
could be
them.
changed at any time?
It did, and that's what that was my caveat here, right? I don't know if a
I
week
heard you.
before they did this, that they went and they changed the rules. So I would have to look to see what the rules are now, but I can tell you that if they change the rules, that they don't have to go through any of that. There's no way they did that. Because the problem with them doing that is if it works for them, it works for us, right? Or what? They're going to change the rules here, and then as soon as he's not convicted, they're going to go back and change it back to the way it used to be.
And what is the process to change that? Is it just a majority vote?
Yeah, man, they set their own rules. There's no vote for the people. There's no.
Right. I mean, but it's like majority vote. They all
Yeah.
vote in majority.
Well, and I don't even know. The Rules Committee, I think, gets to change those rules. I don't think it even has to go to the full House. I think the Rules Committee is the one that their
It
majority.
determines that.
What's
So
that?
if the rules committee say that these are the rules and these are the steps and this is what we're supposed to do, and we go forward with this without, or not we, I guess we, because we are the people, but if Congress does go forward with this, with ignoring the rules that are in place currently, then is it a mistrial or whatever, because is a legal trial if it's not held in the way that it's
Well, those are good questions because I don't know where, I mean, the Republicans have been loud, but I don't know where Republicans have been when it comes to stopping this. I mean, I get why it was brought up, and I'm behind why it was brought up, right? If you think that the president had something to do with insurrection against the United States, that should absolutely be brought up. But we should go through everything, and we didn't. And there was nobody there to stop this in the House. And I don't know how you stop it in the House, to be honest with you. Luckily, the Senate looks like they're going to step up and say, look, man, this ain't right. We're not going to be part of this, which is effectively going to kill it. But now you've got, you've got half the country saying, oh, Donald Trump got impeached twice. Well, I mean, did he? The first one was a sham. And the second one, I mean, they didn't even follow their own historical rules. And I don't know if somebody can look it up. I mean, I don't know if those rules changed. It'll be interesting to see if those rules changed, January 4th of 2020. My guess is no, because like I said, that is one of those things that if they change it, what's good for the goose, good for the gander, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who said it? Was it McConnell that said it? The filibuster rule.
Read it sooner than you may think.
Allowing federal justice.
Right. You are going to regret this and possibly sooner than you may think, and it falls into that. I mean, are they going to change those rules to make it easy for petty Republicans to do the same thing?
Mike posted an interesting question here in the chat. Is there a presumption of prosecution is supposed to prove guilt, or is there a presumption of guilt where the accused has to prove their innocence? In regard to an impeachment, I would guess.
I can answer that. In court, yes. In public opinion, no.
Well, right, but when you're talking about a conviction from the Senate, and no, I think he goes in there maintaining his right to be innocent. I mean, they assign managers to the impeachment who act as prosecutors that go in there to prove their case. So clearly, I mean, because if it was just guilty until proven innocent, it would only be Trump and his team who was in there trying to fight this thing, but it's not. The prosecutors show up in there and they bring their case. So, I mean, that's my guess. All right, so moving on. So we got congressional interpretation. We have any indictable crime, but then we get into high crimes and misdemeanors. So the next school of thought is misdemeanors, which is obviously no indictable crime, no criminal connotation at the time of ratification. So when I say there was no criminal connotation at the time of ratification, we got to get back into the dictionary, right? And we got to see what they mean. Misdemeanors back then did not mean what misdemeanors mean now. So in 1828, which is the closest dictionary we have to when they wrote the Constitution. And I don't know, David, if you want to look up misdemeanor in their 1752, was it?
1755. I think.
55. So in 28, in law, which is the second definition, an offense of a less atrocious nature than a crime. Crimes and misdemeanors are mere synonymous terms, but in common usage, the word crime is made to denote deeper and more atrocious die, while small faults and omissions of less consequence are comprised under the gentler name of misdemeanors. So misdemeanors did not mean then what it means now. Small faults and omissions of less consequence.
I've got the definition from the older dictionary if you want it.
Yep.
Misdemeanor, offense, ill behavior, something less than an atrocious crime. That's it.
All right. And then obviously 25 or 28, they started, I think they narrowed that definition down even more. So somewhere in between there, but they are clearly not assuming they're not thinking misdemeanors mean what we think it means today. Now, when they initially wrote the Constitution, they started with impeachable offenses were malpractice and neglect of duty. That was way too broad. Nobody wanted that in there. They replaced that with treason, bribery, or corruption, quickly dropped corruption, and decided to move for maladministration. Again, it was considered way too broad, and they ended up settling on high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, and that takes us right into acts. The fourth one is acts related to official duties, which may or may not be a crime. This is the one, there's a lot more support for this, acts related to the official duties. Some are worried that, you remember the ex post facto laws, right? Some are worried that they wanted Congress at one point to make a list, basically, pass a law. You know, that Congress could pass a law and say, these things right here are going to result in you being impeached. Obviously, the concern is now you're talking about ex post facto, which are laws that are passed that are applied in the past, right? That are applied retrospectively. So in this case, they could pass a law saying that, I don't even know, that any contact with Russia is reason for you to be impeached, and then apply that retrospectively. Now Donald Trump's brought up on impeachment charges. Ex post facto laws are actually one of the things that Congress is not allowed to do, that is spelled out, that for certain they are not allowed to do. And it brings up other constitutional issues. As far as how the House, Congress having too much power, deciding on, just because they don't like the way a president's doing something, or they don't like a treaty that he got involved in, or they don't like, like the money sent to Iran, right? If we didn't like the way it's handled, that the president can be impeached. Bad president, it's bad executive action, but is it worth impeaching him? So those are the four schools of thought. Anybody got anything?
Nope.
I think everybody's mics are broken.
No.
You guys
Oh,
check
you
them
have
out
30
real quick?
people in here.
I know.
I think everybody's trying to talk at once.
That's pretty good. So if you are talking right now because you have a question, your mic's not on, just so you know.
Or if you want to raise your hand.
So it was brought up before too. Now listen, if you guys remember about the Senate, right? Who's the president of the Senate?
Vice President.
Vice president, except for
during impeachment.
During impeachment.
And during impeachment, who is it? Who takes his place?
Chief
Justice.
Chief Justice.
Chief
of the Supreme
Justice.
Court.
That's the way it's always been, right? Now, Senator Leahy, who voted for conviction in the first sham impeachment, longest serving Democrat, he is now going to be, I believe, appointed by Pelosi, if I'm not mistaken. But he is going to be sitting in. Justice Roberts said he wasn't going to do it.
Why do you think that?
Well, probably because of constitutional issues, I would guess. I don't know. I haven't seen his statement on it yet. But now you've got a Democrat sitting in there as the judge. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think.
Why wouldn't another Supreme Court justice sit?
Well, constitutionally, I don't know. And I don't know what happens if the Chief Justice doesn't sit in there. What's the hierarchy here?
So
Right.
what I heard from Ted Cruz today, the reasoning behind that is the Chief Justice only has to sit in on an impeachment when it's the president being impeached. And since Trump is no longer the president, he doesn't need to sit in on that.
Yeah, some cowardly shit right there, if that's why.
Well, it is John Roberts, so nobody's.
It's also fair.
Right.
But if we're going to go back to the point where he can be impeached because he was president at the time he was impeached, he was the president, so therefore the Chief Justice is the one to sit.
That should sit.
Here.
Kind of a circular argument there, huh?
you know.
And I don't know the legalities of Patrick Leahy being allowed to sit in. I mean, you
What?
can't tell, is he unbiased? I mean, he voted for the first impeachment.
I don't know. He was
for
one of the victims there that was getting
I guess
directed upon.
here's my question though. What are his duties as presiding over? I mean,
He presides over.
change the vote.
He's the judge. He decides the rules, the order of the way
all the
things go,
procedures. He is the
just like any judge would in any trial.
But don't you
But he
think
still
that
can't
it
affect the
would?
vote.
No, he can't, but
He
he
can't affect-
can allow things in that should not be in.
Right, and he can disallow things that maybe should be in that he doesn't want in.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't you think that that would be something very obvious and
Conflict of
Well, I
interest.
think this whole thing is very obvious so far.
These aren't the
Right.
droids you're looking for.
I mean, the House has already put forth these articles of impeachment without anything, without any hearings, without any witnesses, without any testimony given. You know, the Judiciary Committee didn't vote on it. It just went straight to the whole House.
I mean, I joined late, but I think the whole basis of the impeachment is for one reason, because they want to make sure that Donald Trump can't run again in 4 years. I mean, that's
Correct.
really,
And that's what we were talking about.
okay,
And Nancy Pelosi actually came forward and I mean, she actually said those words, that is why they were doing
yeah.
it. I mean, are you doing it for justice or are you doing it just to keep him out?
Is that an impeachable offense?
What's that?
Nancy Pelosi saying that she wants to do this.
Well, I don't know. I guess it
Not
depends on how
about
the
it.
House changed their rules, right?
Not one of those individuals who's listed in the ability to be impeached. It sounds like as you read that
Oh,
article.
no, it is. She can.
No,
Congress,
That's the only
Absolutely.
way to get him out.
Congress people can certainly be impeached.
I've been looking.
But only by themselves, only by their own group.
Right. And it takes
Congress
2/3 of the vote.
overruled.
Correct.
Yeah.
But again, that's why you see most of them step down.
Right.
You know, most of them are scandals, like what's his name, Anthony Weiner,
Did
right?
she say she wasn't going to run for reelection?
Who's that?
Pelosi.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Okay, but Joe Biden said he wasn't going to run anymore after his son died too.
Donald Trump has also said he has no intention of running anymore, that he's going to go ahead and just back up
Right.
and support anybody who runs against rhinos. But
Yeah.
does anybody believe that he's really out? I mean, they all say they're not going to do it, right? But they all
Yeah.
end up coming back. And especially with Donald Trump. I mean, it's all ego for him. He wants to be the top dog.
Oh, you mean they're going to like retire and then go back in and double dip? Come on, nobody
We're
does
s-
that.
We're starting to get
Sorry.
from.
No,
some
not
of
I'm dogging Donald Trump. I'm not allowed to do that here.
Chris has a question.
Listen, it's only bad when we talk about the left, Renee. If I talk about the right, see Mary's all like, yeah, that mother.
Okay, so Chris has got a question.
Mary's face, that was awesome.
And I have to say thank you, Chris, for raising your hand.
Chris who? Who has a question?
Go ahead, Swank.
I think
Come on,
Chris is
Chris.
just playing with the
Unmute
numbers.
yourself.
Turn your mic
I
on.
did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that was weird. So like to me, that kind of put it into perspective. I mean, it's kind of like a person is being sued for something, but then the person. All right, so Leahy is the one who's going to be presiding over this, right? So, but he was one of the ones being in quote unquote insurrected. So that's kind of like putting the victim as the judge, right? Which doesn't make sense to me.
Who's that? Are those your kids or your grandkids yelling?
And that's a good point, though, Chris.
I was trying to figure out who that was. No, I think that's an absolute fair point. I mean, the victim's going to be the judge. Can you imagine? Could you imagine if that's how we ran court?
Well, civil and criminal courts would call that conflict of interest, I would think.
Do you think?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing in the Constitution about jury selection for impeachment of the president.
Right.
The jury
Hey,
selection
Senate gets
is-
to set their own rules.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just, but I think that's why the Senate is just gonna shit can this whole thing.
Hey, Jim,
Uh,
I have a question. You were saying about the 5 Republican senators. Are they on board with finding him guilty or proceeding with the trial?
Those are the 5 right now. So what happened was Rand Paul basically put up a symbolic bill, I guess you'd call it. I don't know. It's probably not the right word. But it's symbolic. It's not binding in any way. But he put that up and they voted on it. And only 5 of them, because what he wanted to do here was go ahead and put these senators on record about how they were looking to vote. And only 5 of them said that they were looking to vote for the conviction.
Okay, so like a Twitter poll.
Essentially.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it's official.
Yeah.
It's an official proceeding,
Right.
but it's not a binding. There's no.
So
teeth to
they've
it,
made a
you know?
decision before they've seen the evidence.
This is what McConnell did for the Green New
Right.
Deal a while back. Like, which one of you Democrats is going to put on record that you are going to vote for this, even though it wasn't a law or anything like that. I can't remember the name of it right now either, but it's like just put it on record, even though it doesn't matter.
No, I understand. I'm just concerned that they're willing to convict somebody without any kind of evidence being brought forth yet.
Well,
Well, and
you're seeing this.
that's what's funny, because if they had gone through the proper steps in the impeachment, there would have been evidence to
Right.
bring to trial. But
And I'm
they're
not sure anybody would have a problem. Well, I mean, except for you know, the obvious part of it. I don't think as many people would have had a problem with it had they gone through the entire process.
Process,
They
right.
presented their evidence. They cross-examined. They brought testimony, and people could sit back and say, you know what, that makes sense to me, right?
Mhm.
Or that doesn't make sense to me. But right now, people are making all these judgments based on just the Democrat saying he took part in an insurrection with no evidence at all.
Jim,
And
I think you're giving people way too much credit there. This is a totally bipartisan issue. The people on the left, no matter what evidence was provided, no matter what facts were provided, are going to say, oh yeah, he's definitely guilty. And the same is true for the conservatives. They're going to listen to everything and they're going to say, this is all a bunch of bullshit. And this is all a waste of our
No,
time.
and there's something to be said for that, for sure. I mean, this country's never been as divided as we are now, minus the Civil War, maybe, right? There's something to be
But I
said.
mean, you did say that there are 5 Republicans that are willing to convict. So
There are,
it's not.
And I'm
it's not
I'm-
completely
only because I'm not going to
partisan.
turn this into a
Rhino.
political discussion.
Yeah, we're not doing it.
No,
we're not
I'm
doing
just
a
saying.
Political discussion.
Well, yeah, right. But only because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to name those Republicans, because then we're going to
Right.
get into, and you can find them. I mean, the list is out there. And, you know, we go into the after party, I'll tell you who they are, and you can say your piece about them. But
The
I guess
reading on the vote.
I guess that I would have more confidence in them voting to impeach or voting to convict him if they heard the evidence. And like
They didn't have time to
somebody-
hear the evidence.
Well, and
They're-
no,
They were
they didn't.
yeah, they were going
They
to
were in
strike while the
such-
iron was hot, right?
Right, they were in
they
such a
were
rush.
acting on fear.
Such a rush. And I think it was Sandy who said it. You know, if there was anything out there, we'd be hearing it. We'd be hearing it every single day. We'd be hearing about this evidence, but there's nothing that they've brought forward. It's just like the claims of the election being stolen, right?
Well, I mean,
We haven't heard any evidence.
never let a good crisis go unused, or however that is worded.
You're not leaving now.
You know.
What'd you say?
Do you have money for nacho fries?
No. No, we're not going to talk.
Hold on, this is important stuff. Everybody be quiet, because nacho fries are no joke.
Yeah.
Let them talk.
Give
Let
her
them
the
talk.
money for the fries.
I know.
Look, can we all agree, Republican or Democrat, that nacho fries are the bomb?
Absolutely.
See, we can all come together. There's common ground here.
Yeah.
I've never had
nacho fries.
There's-
I've never had a nacho fry.
Renee, if you could just remove Jen and Holly both from the group.
I've never had a nacho fry
Yeah,
either.
we can't have anybody here who's never.
Listen, I haven't, and I eat Taco Bell all the time.
I've never
Hey,
had
make-
a nacho fry.
Robin,
Make sure you send
Me
some
too,
of those
Bruce.
nacho fries into the messenger.
What'd you say?
I said
Send
me
some of
too,
those
Bruce.
nacho fries through messenger.
Okay.
You know what, Wayne,
And then what'd you?
whatever.
What'd you say, Jim?
I said, you're talking shit about the nacho fries. I said, "Et tu, Brute." Oh,
I'm
you're a
not talking
Judas.
shit.
What
the hell's a nacho
Family-
fry?
All right, so that's it. I think we're at 8:55, probably in this thing early. Does anybody else have anything else on impeachment? I mean, I know it's still, because of what's going on, it's just not a normal impeachment. It's such a mess. But what we've gone through are the steps that need to be followed. We talked about the 4 schools of thought on this. I mean, clearly, congressional interpretation is horrible. An indictable crime, maybe. Misdemeanors, I don't think they meant what misdemeanors mean today. And the acts related to official duties, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you can't have Congress coming up with a list of what those acts are, right? Anytime that we allow, be it a Republican or a Democratic Congress, we can't have them coming up with their own list and applying it to help whatever cause they're after. So I think, in my opinion now, that there is no way it's constitutional to try Donald Trump now that he's been removed from office. This whole thing is, I mean, I wish it was, in the criminal justice world, there's fruit of the poisonous tree, right? Has everybody heard that? So basically what the fruit of the poisonous tree is when I'm working and I go and illegally search a car, right? Because I think there's drugs in it or whatever. The guy tells me, "No, you can't search it anyway." I find a gun, all right? And using that gun, we're able to track back to a homicide and the guy gets charged with a homicide. Everything that happens after I find that gun illegally is poison. None of it stands. So I wish that we could apply that to this, right? When the House puts up these and it's a poison fruit from the House, to everything that happens after that should just be washed. I mean, there's no trial, there's no, they come up now with witnesses, but they missed their chance and they handled it improperly, but witnesses come forward for the Senate. I think it should all be poisonous tree.
I don't think our founders could have possibly imagined the bipartisan nature of what's going on right now. Okay. They, as
Bipartisan or the divisive nature?
as amazing as they were to be able to think about what's going to happen in the future and everything, as amazing as they were to apply law on paper that will apply 250 years ahead, they could not have imagined that one party would be so bipartisan or divisive that they're going to attack the other side no matter what the facts are and no matter what the evidence is. And they could not imagine that.
You're absolutely right. Now, however, I will say, I mean, it's not just, listen, I'm disgusted by the Republican Party too. The divisiveness comes from both parties. Nobody's willing to work with anybody. It doesn't matter. Does not matter. And you look at, just, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get too political here.
Thank you. I saw you biting your tongue.
Yeah, I was. I started thinking about what I was going to say in my head. I'm trying to imagine how it came out in my mouth. And I'm like, this isn't going to go well. And I'm going to get yelled at. So,
That's the after party.
Yeah. Well, and it shouldn't be, but it is, whatever. The rules are a little relaxed there. So, all right. So I'll be there. I'm not going to stay. What's up?
Yeah. Mike had posted, is this the Senate vote we're speaking of?
What's that? Coming
There's
up?
a link.
There was a link, motion on the table. Is the point of order taken? This was the 117th Congress first session.
Does it say who brought it up?
Oh, this is the one that you were looking to see who was voting yay.
I'll know as soon as I look at the yays on the R's.
Yep.
Yep. And
I see one.
yep. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Three, yes.
100%.
Four,
That is it. So yeah, I mean, take a look. Take a look for yourselves.
five, yep. I see them.
Yeah, so that's what it is a roll call vote. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. That's
Roll
what I
call,
was trying
yeah.
to think. Yep. So, and you know what? And it was smart. I mean, you got, Paul was able to get people to commit to where they stood on this.
Well, he tried to get them to commit and Schumer threw out a let's table that. And then you had 5 of the Republican senators joined all the Democrats to table Rand Paul's vote on the constitutionality of the Senate trying to convict an impeachment on a no longer sitting president.
Hmm.
So that's the vote. He was trying to get a vote on the constitutionality of it. And Schumer said, let's table that vote. And when that came up, they voted on tabling it, and 5 Republicans said, let's table it. And that was like Murkowski and
No
Romney.
politics.
Yep.
Oh, no, I mean, it's here now. Might as well
Well,
Go ahead and look it up. I mean, it's, you look at it, it's just, I mean, it's right down the middle, man. Totally partisan. All Republicans, all Democrats, -5.
For this thing goes forward, though, is they need to figure out if it's constitutional or not. Otherwise, they're just wasting their time. And it's always going to be cast in doubt, no matter what side you're on.
Well, they don't care if it's constitutional or not. They want
Well-
they want to get it voted on.
Here's another thought. They're wasting our money.
That's
Money.
Passing a budget.
Well, it's not only the money. I mean, they're wasting time. We have other things that we need to be doing, man.
As if
Congress would
as
not
if they
give up
ever
a
cared
long
about
time.
that.
No,
Wasting
no,
time,
they
wasting
didn't.
money.
All right, Renee,
okay.
we're getting off here. So
We are.
good enough, 9:02, perfect. Does anybody have any questions, anything about impeachment? Let's try to stay off the politics before we move on, or before we end this for tonight. I mean, does everybody kind of understand impeachment a little bit better about how it works, what the rules are supposed to be, how it's supposed to work?
The fluid rules,
All right,
Yeah.
what's that?
the fluidity of the rules.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I need to look to see if those house rules are changed,
Yeah.
because I don't know. All right, so, all right, I'll meet you guys over on the other side then.
And then next week will be
Are
Article,
we doing a new link or same link?
Renee will probably post it.
Yes, I'll
But
post
it's
it.
gonna be, if you go through it, it'll be the same after party link as last week.
I'll
Yeah,
post
man,
it.
33 of y'all. Look at this.
I know, we had a
Big group tonight.
Yes, we had some new faces or
Good.
devices, I should say. So a few ads. I added someone right before or right just at the very start of the meeting. So
Christina.
Yeah, we,
Christina, yes, she jumped in.
Christina is running for council at large.
oh, yeah?
Yep.
Man, it's gonna be a political family. Her husband, Mike, there is Lorraine County Recorder.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, there are some different names here. Listen, since I've got everybody here real quick, so what we do here is we talk, we try to stay non-political here on this page, during the meeting. After this, Renee will put up another link. It's another Zoom link where we all kind of show up, sometimes till 4:30 in the morning, sometimes till 11 o'clock at night. You leave whenever you want. And it really, the rules are a little more relaxed. We talk about whatever it is you guys want to talk about. The only thing I ask is when we start, if something sucked, you tell me what sucked, you tell me what worked, just so we can keep kind of trying to make this better. But yeah, the rules are kind of relaxed. You can talk a little more freely, however you want to talk about it. That's when the bourbon starts getting poured. If you have a problem on the meeting and you disagree with anything that was said here, but you didn't feel like chiming up, Renee, if you could put it in the chat real quick. Email is edc1787@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. I've still got to get those, man. I still got those questions. Where's Stephanie? Stephanie, I did not forget about you. It was a busy week, man. But yeah, just feel free to reach out and yell at me. All right. Tell me this is a bunch of bullshit and you didn't like the way it was handled. And we'll kick you out. Just kidding. Joke. I swear to God, it was a joke. I swear. No, we don't kick anybody out, man. I mean,
No.
you guys are allowed to have your own opinions and you're allowed to disagree. And that's what makes this country great. So feel free to disagree, but let me know at least why you disagree so that maybe I disagree. Maybe I didn't realize some of the stuff that was going on here and we can work to fix it in the future. So Renee will put up the link. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, and if you have a thought, if you don't feel comfortable saying it, throw it in the chat and we'll bring it up because it's supposed to be a discussion. We talked about when we were originally discussing this, Jim was like, kind of like a Bible study, except it will be the Constitution. So we want people to chime in and it not just be the Jim show, even though it is fun, but it would be.
Well, you know what? And I said it today. I learn as much during these things as you guys do, right? I've made mistakes. Jeff called me out last week, embarrassed me and shit. But no, I do, man. I don't know it all, right? I'm not a constitutional law attorney. I don't know. I apply the Constitution every day that I work, but if we're being honest, I mean, I'm only applying maybe the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment when I'm interviewing people.
Everybody skips the third one.
Well,
Does
you know what?
everybody know what
Listen,
you do on here, Jim? Because there's
yeah,
so
I don't know
many
if they do
people.
or not. I'm a police officer. I've been a police officer for 28 years. So the Constitution's important to me. Obviously, I took an oath several times in my life to uphold and defend it. But when you're talking day to day, it's really First, Second, Fourth, and Fifth, right? The Third Amendment, those of you who don't know, is about not quartering soldiers in your house. The government is not allowed to quarter soldiers in your house.
Thank
So,
God.
if that ever happens, now listen, anybody who lives in North Ridgeville, I'm telling you right now, that if the National Guard or the United States Army, the Marines just knock down your door and decide they're going to take over your master bedroom, give me a call, right? That is unconstitutional. And we will absolutely remove the United States Marine Corps from your house.
What did we have?
Where
What
do
about
you
the
send
case
the
tag?
link for the next meeting? As soon as I reset the passcode for the meeting, I'll send the link and the phone number if people need to call in as well. On the,
Yeah, Renee's also been adding the phone number. So if you can't get on, how's that work, Renee? If you can't get on, you just call and then you can still be part of it.
yeah,
It
you can
just
still
voice in.
listen. Yeah, we just don't have video that
Okay.
call in.
All right. All right. So yeah, so I'll see everybody there. It'll take me a minute, but I'll see you guys over there.
Okay,
Okay.
All right.
thanks,
Hey, man,
everybody.
thanks a lot. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
joining me.
See you in a few.